So, first of all, what I would request our panelists to tell us what are the major trends that we're witnessing presently in the pay TV market in India. So, obviously, I'll speak directly to Mr. Chandhok.
Hi, my name is Vinay Chandhok. Very new to cable business, about 6 quarters. So please don't ask too much technology questions. I don't understand, but I understand consumer as a space, so I'll try and address that. India is experiencing all that it should because this is the right time for digitization. Right? While yes, we've seen some amount of handicaps largely because of judiciary interventions, but we see digitization still going through. And if we see what a consumer in cable has seen in both phase 1 and phase 2, essentially the difference between the DTH and cable TV has started blurring because the consumer gets what he or she wants to see, which is content. And content in a digitally delivered environment is far more superior, which is what DTH was always offering for maybe about 10-12 years in India. Right? So I personally am quite excited. City Cable is kind of leading it. We were a distant number 3 about a year and a half back. We are a close number 2 today. Across India, we have about 12 million subs now, about 7.5 million digitized already. So it's exciting times for India. Consumers will see what they should see. They'll get the quality that they should have got. Being coming from outside the industry, I always thought that cable was not so good business, right? But in last about 18 months, I have changed my perception on cable, that cable essentially was always deprived of technology, right? And the moment you gave it the technology support that it deserved, it's delivering to the consumer that it wanted, right? So in my opinion, it was more to do with the technology and the ecosystem than the cable operator per se, which is how it was always seen in India. Yeah. So we'll interact more as we go.
Yeah. So as we have Dialog, from Dialog we have Zihar, who is from Sri Lanka. So probably you can tell us about your perspective of things on the
actually,
market.
Deepak, to begin with, of course, big numbers, 7 million and all that. As you know, Sri Lanka is a tiny tot compared to the numbers that you enjoy here. But I need to say, Sri Lankan pay TV industry have gone on a long route and a journey. And then now I'd say now we are actually in the spotlight right now. If you look at Sri Lanka, the biggest challenge that we had was not competing with each other on the pay TV industry, but we all had to compete with the local terrestrial, which is a free-to-air channels. Right? So people used to enjoy good content, free of cost, with about 15 or 17 odd variety. So getting the notion of, you need to pay for content was a bigger challenge. But today Dialog have successfully, gone into that area with different strategies right along from the inception. So we grew, now today we have about 700,000 active subscribers, which in terms of Sri Lankan numbers, which is a very healthy number, but we are also looking at an aggressive target by end of this year to reach 1 million subscribers, somehow to bridge that gap. So we are doing various things in back home to bridge that gap. So one of the key differentiators that we have brought in is, rather than being on egoistic approach on pay TV, we are trying to build up an ecosystem where we are also getting the free-to-air networks to come on board. So as a medium of a transport. So where areas where they cannot go in, we are taking them there, which has worked very well. So we see good penetration, good number picking up, along with, bringing along good content with pay TV channels as well. So that's in a brief nutshell.
Okay. So in terms of the innovation strategies of pay TV operators, those who are in the pay TV business, so what is the key focus basically that you are seeing in the environment that players are working towards? So what is the key focus of innovation strategies?
See, as I said, largely consumer is where one has to work. And if with respect to consumer, what I see the industry and specific in City Cable, we are India is still very tropicalized. So what you consume is very local, right? I mean, barring what is more generic, whether it's in the sports or the entertainment genres, what you still want to see is what's happening around you. You know, that's your neighborhood, that's your state, because we are still very tropicalized, very regional, right? So we've, over the last about 5-6 quarters, started working on what the consumer wants to see on his own local content, right? And there we've kind of worked on, there's something known as Siti Bhakti. There till about a year back, we were very large in Calcutta and West Bengal, so we have a Siti Bangla channel, right? Now we are also saying that if we have, let's say, about 15 million subscribers in India to serve, you know, the previous speaker mentioned about OTT and so on and so forth. We're saying we are a very strong distribution platform. So how do you then let them enjoy your platform in multiple formats, right? So maybe sometime in about a quarter or so, I intend to launch multi-party gaming, right? So that the consumers can, kind of relate to each other and get hooked on to each other, in addition to local content which they really need.
Okay. So how at the same time are you seeing the other players working? Because it's interesting to also know that the innovation is being brought in the market by different players, different kind of strategies. But how do you view this trend to bring in innovation like features, giving new kind of experiences to customers?
See, if you were to divide innovation in about 2 or 3 things, one is we are still a B2B economy, right? I mean, as multi-system operators, we still serve largely the cable operator, right? And he's the one who serves the end consumer on 9 on 10 counts.
Yeah.
So first thing is, we are doing a lot of work to get the cable operator subscribe to that the MSO is an aggregator of services. It's a distribution platform where you invest largely on the back-end technology. So what you've done is we've given him a own your customer module, right, where he essentially knows what his customer is today subscribing to, how he is charging him, is he essentially done any value-added services to him in terms of a la carte channels, so on and so forth. So that's one innovation we've done on the LCO side. The other innovation we've done on the LCO side is, it's not an innovation, it's more an extension of service. India is today seeing transformation, right? He mentioned about data consumptions going up. We've started working on broadband in a big way, right? So till last year we were largely a Calcutta and Delhi broadband company. This year we would be a 4 or 5 states broadband company organically. Inorganically, we are still on the shopping spree. Wherever we will find a good value, we will buy it out. In terms of consumers, HD is something that was always a domain of the DTH players. So if you see a Tata Sky might have a 50 to 60%, and some of the other DTH companies might have less, right? Including our own group company. MS was never focused on DTH, right? Because largely the digital in phase 1 and 2 came about 3 years back.
Yeah.
With unlocking of phase 3 and 4, we essentially spending a lot of time in terms of giving consumers, content on HD now.
Okay.
Right. So today City Cable offers about 40. I think across most MSOs we would offer anything between 35 to 40 HD channels, right? Which in my opinion would be a good handle for the LCO to meet his consumer demands.
Okay. So what about Dialog's experience of that in terms of the Sri Lankan market?
Innovative
in the innovation dimension, I mean.
See, what we are trying to do back home is more of bringing in convenience. Now we see, everybody jumping onto OTT and all that, including ourselves. We are a quad operator back home, so we have a mobile network, we have a broadband network, we have a fixed line, and also DTH. So the convenience part that we are bringing into the consumer is the ease of not putting the credit card bill, for example. We are trying to bring in add to bill. You bring in with an OTT service, our own service, maybe on-the-go services, you bundle it in, and then get him tagged on to his existing bill. See, back home, I'm sure even here one of the previous speakers rightfully mentioned, this is not the mass that we are looking at in India. So similarly, we are not the masses back home. We are just a little bit of bunch who are, maybe we are forward, we use our credit card to purchase things. I do purchase a lot of things via credit card. But I'll give you a small practical example. When Uber launched in Sri Lanka, when they went in global and when they launched in Sri Lanka, when I wanted to get the app, now I do purchase quite a lot of stuff using internet. So the first thing the app asked me was, enter your credit card number. So that turned me off, The first question was, enter your credit card number. So I didn't. But when Netflix came in, they too asked that same question, but in a different manner. First they asked me what I like to see, what are your tastes, can you pick a couple of movies, what you like in order to taste, okay, and then, okay, can you enter your credit card number? So what we are trying to do is we are trying to, do things in a subtle manner which is more related to the consumer. We want to understand the consumer. We want to take away the pain, the doubts that they have in their mind, because we are still backwards.
Yeah.
Majority are backwards, right? And then bring them to reality. Of course, we need to make money anyway. And then in a different manner, we are trying to, approach the customer. Right? So OTT is in, On the Go is in. So those are some of the plans that we also have in the pipeline.
Okay. In terms of content strategy, Mr. Chandhok, how has this evolved, and what type of maybe channel offering are pay TV operators trying to line up?
See, content in India, as I mentioned in a couple of minutes back, is very regional, right? So there are very dominant players across India.
Yeah.
Largely, if you go south of India, each state by itself has its own content, and very powerful content, very rich content, and 9 on 10 counts. One wants to see what is local. I see today, when we see genre-wise, fiction is picking up a lot of space now. In the entertainment space, supernatural is picking one space which has got a niche audience, but it's picking up a lot of space now, right? The earlier speaker mentioned that there are look-down generations now, and India is the world's largest youth economy today, right? A lot of content is being manufactured or produced, which is co-created. Right, so I am seeing a lot of content being co-created by partners, the younger generation themselves, which are more lifestyle-based, and those kind of content being generated, even in the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So India is no longer a Delhi, Bombay, Pune, Bangalore market. It's already gone to the top 100 towns of India now, and that's where I see the real content emerging, because you will start seeing a lot of participation and co-creation happening.
But also the much talked about multi-screen, about adding new features. How do you see maybe cable operators or at the same time DTH operators actually working towards providing this kind of innovation?
Most of us, I'm sure, in this room, about 100 of us are there. While we watch a linear TV, we actually parallelly do something else at home. Right? I mean, sometimes we are on our iPad, sometimes we are on a mobile device, so on and so forth. So if we were to look at immersive as one approach, saying that, while you watch something, you sometimes are not able to relate to the character in the episode that you're watching. And I'm a bad TV viewer, by the way. I watch about half a minute TV a day. Right? So I'm not the right guy to comment on it, but being a business head, I start and I need to monetize it, so I spend a lot of time on meeting consumers and their expectations. Right? So from that perspective, I see it changing structures. Will OTT change? I'm yet to see that, because it's yet to evolve as a business model, right? I mean, I'm yet to see where in the world it started paying. I mean, people have, say, pay-per-views, but how many views did you get to make money out of it, right? I mean, he mentioned Netflix still burns money, right? So, I mean, where are those deep pockets that you will continue to fund? I certainly see a challenge in that space. I also see challenge because, how much of, continuous connectivity will you offer to experience the content? Right, which is where still there is a handicap, right? I mean, whether we like it or no, worldwide, even in the developed economies, there's an 85-90% consumption still happening on the wire. The wireless is still not moved there. He mentioned Singapore, which is a small place, tiny, technologically superior, but still has challenges on delivering experience. So finally, whether you move to multi-screen, you will move to immersive TV, or you move to second skin, at the end of the day, wireless is going to be handicap, right? And in fact, day before, Doordarshan, which is India's homegrown government-funded business, TV, has launched. I am not so sure of the technical aspect of it, but it says that you don't need internet to watch TV. Right? So will it work? It's anybody's guess. I have my own doubts. I would be conservative on putting a 3 to 5 years time frame on anything on second skin right now.
Zihar, maybe on the Sri Lankan market, it's also opening up to Indian players. Like we recently saw Dish TV getting in, and how is it like changing things in terms of competition, in terms of the way you players like Dialog react to the market?
Dish TV, I've not heard of it coming to Sri Lanka. I'm sorry. Just kidding. Yeah, they're in Sri Lanka. Yeah, I know. Well, they have come in. In fact, see, as I said, Sri Lanka is a smaller market. But definitely Dish TV is looking into Sri Lanka because there's something good happening back home. See, one of the reasons the initial paper articles that they released or they said was the ARPUs in Colombo are good. In fact, I was just having a chat with a friend of mine just before the session started. I was just explaining about the ARPUs that we used to enjoy back home, which is very healthy, right? Because being a small market, content is consumed. Even though with 700,000 subscribers, or maybe let's say with competition, or that maybe 1 million pay TV subscriber homes, we still enjoy a good ARPU, a healthy ARPU. So that could have attracted for people to come in. Certainly, if there is a good competition, a healthy competition happening in the market, I see the consumer is going to benefit because the industry is going to grow. Now, in terms of content, your earlier question, how we see is, or rather personally I see is, content if it's really good, it's a global product, whatever the language it is. We consume quite a lot of Hindi movies in Colombo. It releases in India, it releases back home. We consume quite a lot of Tamil movies in Colombo. It releases, see, you have big queues like in India, like in Chennai. People queue up to see the first show and all that. Now, one of the earlier speakers were talking about, Narcos, right? The Pablo Escobar's story. Even Pablo Escobar itself, which is in Spanish, fantastic production. So it doesn't have a boundary. I was reading the subtitle and watching the programs because the production quality is so high. Now, as you all know, now the Turkish dramas, which is just coming in just after the Korean thing, Turkish dramas, how it is coming into the household. One thing is, you like to see pleasant people, and when the production is also higher, the mixture is working fantastically. So good content, people are willing to pay.
For the pay TV operators, is the regulatory environment that we have, are there kind of constraints which are kind of preventing you to go to the level that you want, particularly as you are having at the same, at the other end, DTH operators who actually connect directly to customers? So is there like an evolution that you would have liked or you would envisage or look forward for?
See, out of the 150 million TV households, the construct is so large that no single operator worth its salt would be able to serve the entire length and breadth. Having said that, between two platforms as technology, is government facilitating one over the other? The answer is no. Right? In fact, by digitization, government is essentially facilitated it for the cable business. Right? Also by pushing the broadband to 2 Mbps definition, it is going to further push consumption now up, right? So I see regulatory facilitating business, right? Yes, there are challenges, but that's to do with the way the Indian cable business has been. So it needs to transform into a consumer-facing business rather than a more inward-looking business, right? That's where, government has now come out with a paper on, how do you do revenue sharing between various stakeholders of the ecosystem. right, which was earlier more only B2C, today it says both B2B and B2C is legal,
Yeah.
or it's about the board, it's still a consultation paper, but I presume it's going to go through more 9 on
So
10
you feel
count.
that that the regulators are actually redefining things and at the right time and really kind of reacting to what was happening in the environment?
So they're kind of putting the entire framework together, because it's part of the Prime Minister's own Digital India movement, right? And
Yeah.
and it's got its due, if I would say, right? Will it take any transformation? Would take a while, and it will have its own kind of complexities to deal with. But as a participant in the ecosystem, I think I'm very hopeful about it.
Okay. So Zihar, from your experience of HD TV growth, this is also the talk that, well, people want new experiences in terms of quality of picture, quality of image that they're getting. How in Sri Lanka and with Dialog and with your subscribers is this working?
See, currently we operate about 120 channels all in all. So about 110 on SD and about 10 channels max on, 6 to 8 channels max on HD. Because HD penetration have not been really successful right now, I would say. But having said that, we are not discounting it, because with our next expansion, which is planned in, we are trying to bring in more HD channels. One of the challenge that we saw from the consumer's point was, see, most of the channels were having a simulcast transmission. Yeah, of course, you have a better quality on it, but the content was the same. So that was one of the feedbacks that we got. So if it's differentiated, there are a couple of channels who are doing different programming. It's been picked up well.
Okay.
So we are yet in the beginning stages of HD penetration. We converted our top base to HD boxes. We swap the boxes free of cost, give them HD boxes. So we are making them ready for it.
Okay.
We give them a couple of taste of it to see it. Then the pickup rate has been good. But overall, I would say yet it's slow. But going forward, we see a good market potential for HD quality viewing.
Okay. So in this in the free-to-air environment, we also see that DD free dish is present, and even among pay TV operators, whether it is the DTH working on their side or cable operators. So how do you see the initiatives, the actions, and the progress of like DD free dish in the recent years?
See, if I start seeing purely again, I'll go back to how I see as a consumer, then how I see as a business guy.
Yeah.
See, as a consumer, my logic is that the day I start seeing an episode, to me it's as fresh as it was supposed to be. So your date of inception of when you start engaging with that content that you want to see is as fresh as it was supposed to be. So from that perspective, DD Fresh offers consumers a platform which is very competitive. Now, does it have a pushback on somebody like me as a business guy? The answer is yes, because my consumer is the same. If I was to divide India into an urban and a rural space, the urban space is still a 2 TV, 3 TV, multi-TV home, right? Where one of the TVs could be a free dish, but the other is maybe a more smart TV with an internet to it, so that you are able to do your other work while you're watching TV. And the third one could be a linear TV. When I move to more tertiary towns in the rural space, I see dish moving. But that's the space cable operators would anyway not be able to serve because of the cost to serve.
Yeah.
Right? So from business perspective, will it have impact? The answer is yes. But if I see about 38 million to 40 million phase 4 subscribers, which is where largely phase dish is going to, I am going to be participating in about 25 to 30%, because otherwise my cost to serve is so high that I would not be able to serve those customers. So they will either go DTH or they'll go the free dish way.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you have any question. If you have any questions, so you can actually just put it up to the two panelists here. Anybody? No. So let's, in the meantime, that we have eventually a question, speak about, we've been talking earlier this morning about OTT, Zihar. So how is OTT kind of working around in the Sri Lankan environment, and how are players like going about developing their strategies?
See, OTT back home for the DTH business, we are looking at it not as a competition, but as a complementing product, whereby the reach for DTH product and the reach for OTT product still is in a way different movement, because internet penetration, of course, in Colombo, in Sri Lanka, it's fairly all right. You have mobile internet penetration. We being a mobile operator, the largest mobile operator, we could safely say that even in the rural parts, you could still have mobile access, a decent mobile access. Besides, Sri Lanka is small, so it's easier for you to deploy technology. In fact, Sri Lanka had first mobile network even before India, being a smaller country. So let's say we might welcome people with open arms when they come to OTT, from a mobile side as well as from a DTH side. Because our view is give maximum choices to the consumer. And try to be unique on each side so that you try to benefit, you try to differentiate. And then, end of the day, consumer will stay with you on the network, either on one of the sides. We being a COD, if you do not opt for DTH, we want you to opt for OTT, but using our network. If you do not want to opt for OTT, okay, fine, okay, you come to DTH and then opt in. So that's one of the plans that we are having to go forward.
So is like OTT players a kind of partnership that is being envisaged or could be envisaged by cable operators like City Cable, for example? Is it like forcing a kind of a strategy or an option? Because we're talking about it, and we don't know, they're at a nascent stage, so we don't know how they might develop, but is something like being thought about, being discussed in this direction at pay TV operators level?
See, it's going to be disruption for sure, right? How much of it, I think, is a lot depend on the consumer consumption patterns. Business models will finally settle down, maybe today or next 4 to 6 quarters. Will the economics work for content? Today, if we see, largely content is still digitally manufactured. It's no longer on tapes, right? So, we are, as cable partners or as MSOs, we are quite clear we are aggregators and distribution platforms. Will we also create our own content? We will continue to invest, because today when you have about 15 million subscribers, you have a reasonable good reach to create content, but we'll try and create content which is more local and specific, right, where there is participation by the communities. Right. Beyond that, I don't see, at least in my wisdom, the MSOs looking at content. So they will essentially remain aggregators. And as an aggregator or a distribution platform, you are interested in the economics. Right. As a distribution platform, there's a cost of delivery. As long as the cost of delivery is being monetized appropriately, right, within a time frame that you think is economically viable for you, you don't mind really expanding your customer horizons. But the very purpose, broadband being a cash guzzling machine, right? I used to work for the very early days in 2003-4. I used to work for Satyam, and those days I launched broadband over cable in India. I've seen broadband still struggling on cable in India, right? It's about 12 years. So that's a long haul. In 12 years, if you've not seen industry transforming. But I'm still very hopeful as one of the participants that, we will someday make it happen. Right? I did try making Bangalore Wi-Fi in 2003-4. It failed miserably because there were no takers for it. Right? Am I still a believer in it? The answer is yes. Now I'm saying, okay, let's make villages Wi-Fi rather than going to metros and making the Wi-Fi, because metros still have a reasonably good, robust network.
Okay. So what is, regarding in terms of increasing revenue potential, what are the advertising strategies or subscription packages that pay TV operators are basically focusing on?
So we all understand segmentation works, right? We all understand why it works, because each one has a specific demand or a need at a given point in time, right? So we largely the entire cable business or even the DTH in India is if I take HD out, then for SD it's about 2 or 3 packages, right? One is largely sports led for the youth, one is more local content based, and the third is more generic, right? In terms of pricing, pecking order, one knows how it works. Monetization wise, I think we are kind of educating the entire ecosystem, educating the last mile operator to go and, do a segmentation approach with the consumer, and that's where our tool on Own Your Customer helps him, because he understands what all his customers are seeing and how many customers have dropped from a service or have accepted a new service. So he gets a chance to do cross-pollination. Right? But I would say that, from a long-term CLM initiative or customer lifecycle management, I still see, at least 3 to 4 quarters of effort of educating the ecosystem to subscribe and saying, okay, this is how you monetize it better. It's not you always overcharge. I mean, once you do segmentation, you know who you sell and why you sell, right? And the effective monetization then increases. So I'm quite hopeful in terms of my CLM initiatives. We've started working, we do chopals or rural meets as we call them, right? And going and educating an LCO that, when a consumer was seeing about 100 channels on analog, and today you offer him 250 to 350 channels on digital, you essentially can at least ask for a 75 to 100 rupees extra. And in most markets that I travel across India, I am seeing a realization of 60 to 80 rupees already happening from the consumer. The moment the first guy in the value chain pays you a little extra, you don't mind, taking a logical share of the sachet and transferring it to the next guy. So I see ARPUs growing, but phase 3 and 4, good thing that has happened is India has already started monetizing it. So what happened in phase 1 and 2, at least 2 years later, phase 3, hindsight, people have become intelligent, so boxes have not been subsidized. Subscription, most companies, the top 3 MSOs have started charging from January. Some started charging from January, some from February in some markets, but monetization has started happening, right? Has the collection happened? I mean, we will leave it for results to be declared. Each one is waiting for results, so I don't want to predict anything right now. It's not fair for me, right? But monetization is happening, and I'm very hopeful and optimistic that, phase 3 and 4 will see a far superior monetization in a far shorter span than phase 1 and 2 saw.
Okay. So, Zihar, what about probably monetization strategy based in place in Sri Lanka? Is there something that, India should learn about in terms of your experience?
Well, just to touch upon on what Vinay was saying, we actually got onto it a little bit earlier. The sachet, the specialization, and all that. If you see how the trend has been working, earlier they used to call content as the king, and then it became connectivity became king, like people like us,
You
and then
have a market size advantage.
Correct. Now today it's the context, right? With OTT coming in and all that. See, back home we did a couple of experiments which turned out to be very successful. Now we like rugby, right? Okay, we like cricket as well, but we play rugby, right? So for rugby, we bought in a special channel, Setanta, and kept it as a sachet separately. So we didn't put it on the pack.
You pick it as a top-up.
On a top of pack. So people started picking up because we wanted to serve that particular market. And then we also took a bet, you wouldn't believe. Back home we all grew with these Chinese martial arts movies, like, Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan and all that. So having a bet on that, I took a channel which was in Chinese, but had a lot of martial arts. It worked perfectly. I had a time to convince my management, say, what's wrong with you? Are you going to go to China? Are you going to learn Chinese? I said, no, let's take a bet. Because we grew with it and we like the storylines and all that. So let's take a hit and see. Of course, English subtitle were there. But we found out people were not even reading the subtitle. They were just enjoying the Yahoo and all these, the fights and the twists and the turns. They were really enjoying it. So we actually started to do it. We have started to bring in specialized channels. And then, catering to the particular market at a slightly higher price, which is working well, I would say.
Right. So I don't know if you have any questions for now. Nobody? Okay. So I will thank both of you for having shared your views. Thank you as well, Zihar. Thank you as well, Mr. Chandhok, for your participation.